Hello everyone, welcome back to another Inferno coaching and review session. This is the third one and it's going to be for BlowpipeOSRS, also known as Jimmy Jim Jimbo, as he likes to be known. Of course, links to his stream will be in the description. He is very much gaming and yeah, make sure to check him out. So, let's dive in. We're going to be running here with Chins once more, no Ancestral, and this is actually identical to my setup with the sole exception that he's using Divine, two Bastion, not Bastion, yeah, two Bastion parts instead of two range parts. This is purely preferential, I just have them so I can like color differentiate them a bit more. And he is running a Fally Shield for a bit more prayer, which is totally fine. Oh, and he's got disgusting Devout Boots on by the looks of things, which are also fairly preferential. And the entire run is, I think, sub 58, so well into the sub 60 section and pushing sub 55 now. Right, let's have a look then. All very nice and fine. I like to start a bit closer with these waves, but it really doesn't matter too much. For these waves here, starting a bit closer to the center, so the NPCs on this side, onto the on the west over here, drag nicely for whenever nibblers go to the west pillar, and then you can chin them in addition to the nibblers as they move across. So like two more tiles south is a nice starting position here. On the XP drop there, you could see a 150 instead of a 160, so paying attention there would mean it would be easier to tell when to go for the nibblers and just get one more blowpipe hit. This is questionable. Again, more attention to XP drops. Being able to check that and commit to something that's closer would always help. And the problem with the nibbler back there shouldn't have been too much of an issue. Oh, here's a nice opportunity for any Chin user. I'll just go back a second here. Let me hotkey it back. This is always a nice spawn that happens quite commonly, and there's many ways to deal with it. So we have this north set of chins here, and if you were to chin this again, it does nothing. If you were to chin that, it does nothing. If you were to chin the bat, it does nothing. But in this, every time whenever there's a bat spawned there, what you can do is you can get one blowpipe hit on a close NPC. In this case, the bat over here to the west. One blowpipe hit on the bat, and then chinning the bat up here. Not the separate nibblers, but the bat will hit both of these, which is a really nice little way to group all three of these NPCs, even with the split. So as you can see, I'll go back one more time because this is just such a nice chin setup and it's so free. So what we would do here is we throw the chin, we see, okay, we attack the close bat over here, one blowpipe, and then as they cross over the bat's southwest tile, you see they're all overlapping. It just matches up perfectly. One blowpipe, one chin, kill the bat, or hit the bat, and then reassess. So just a little chin note there. For pushing to sub 55, again, we don't need to kill every blob first, and it's not like the biggest thing ever, but where applicable, sure, we should try and kill blobs first. Switching to the blowpipe there was a good idea because of the XP drop. I think there was a tick lost in doing so though. So just got to be a bit more mindful of clicks. In this case here, the intention, I believe, what he's trying to do is to kill the blob first and then go for something else. But I'll go back here again as well. This is still sort of important territory. Yeah, so for the start here, we can see the nibblers aren't dead. And there's no harm chinning on a second one, because we see both blobs are so far away in this case. And now if you switch to blowpipe and start running south to get that blob, you could T-bow it, I guess, and make the range up, which should be acceptable. But the simpler thing to do here is just to chin these guys again. And then maybe probably go for this blob over here would make a bit more sense. This running time here is like 5 ticks of wasted time, so either T-bow from long range or go for the nibblers again, because you still have NPCs to kill while one of these blobs is dying, you just have the other blob to go for. Let's see if he saves the blob. No, save it! So in this case it's a really like, you're high HP, just kill the blob first and then leave the major alive. Makes a bit more sense there to leave it like so. So I guess the first thing is try to leave something to kill while the blob is dying. Make it a bit more Make it like an active effort to do so. It's a big time save for every blob. And it doesn't have to be every blob that you do it for, but each one that you do it is good in terms of a time save. Right, onto melees. Good stuff. Again, I like the starting tile to be a more... I think my starting tile is like here, so like 3 tiles further south. And again, it just helps with pathing for nibblers that are going west. So maybe have a look at reassessing start tile. Making these sort of habits consistent is good. For the case like this, I went and killed the bat first, and as we know, killing the melee last is a 2-tick time loss on every wave by default, as opposed to killing it first and then something else. So in a situation like that, where it's really free... This is a great shin, by the way. Good awareness on the bat there. Unlucky with the hit, but still a good shin. So for example here, the bat's on you, but we have a nibbler alive. What's the thing to do? Kill the bat, then kill the melee, then kill the nibbler would be my option here, because killing the bat is... it's just on you, it's annoying. So yeah. This here is good intention. I covered this in the last review vid for Incoxicated. When you're doing chins with the melee, you need to make sure that you have to have 2 nibblers at least on the pillar, and the chin that you throw is likely to kill the melee and the nibblers. If it's not likely to kill the melee as well, it's not worth doing. This pathing here is fine. We're not losing any ticks doing this. Don't think that melee is dead though. It's not. Can we kill it during the blob death? Kind of. A little bit scuffed. It has worked out though. The blobs are grouped fine. Coming round the north side of the pillar and attacking the blob from there, and then letting the melee drag towards you is nice as well. And when you do that, you can get a really nice blob clump. You can attack the melee in the mid time, and the melee can't get to you. The mini blobs count as a wall for the melee. So good T-bow hit and awareness. Has died. Gets a couple of hits on the melee. Keep hitting melee until the blobs are stacked. He's going to stack the southwester actually. Lovely intention, but not quite the right stacking. So I can't fault that. Just got to get a little bit more used to the stacking and the stacking mechanic there. But the intention is nice. Bringing that melee across while getting those hits in. Nice efficiency. Good. This is the move I would do. Flick the blob. Could come back to the bat safe spot there instead of coming around. I wouldn't have come around this side of the pillar. Purely for the reason that it's not as safe from the melee here. As we can see now, we have to flick the blob and the melee, lose time coming back around. So I always prefer to play on the west side of the pillar here, where he is right now. If the melee is safe spotted, you have a lot more sort of freedom to work with. I think there's nibblers on that side of the pillar on the west side right now, so we'll see how he likes to deal with that. I would be turning my camera around and going after them after one shin. Luckily he hasn't one-shot that section, so... Oh, let me mute the VOD as well. There we go. Sorry, some of the bits are muted, some aren't. This is from his stream, so he's got his tomato covering up a fair amount of the screen. I can only just about make out his HP, so that should be enough to work with. Nice idea here, coming and taking a hit from the melee, but in terms of like how much time was left before the dig, it would have been feasible to kill the melee before the dig occurred. This is good practice here. A bit scary, but good practice. Got to make up those hits in between. There's the dig. So killing the melee first, then killing the blob, then killing the nibbler, then killing the mini blobs in that scenario. Just a minor change of procedure. Double melee wave. Nice chins. And this should be smooth sailing. Whenever I'm in a position like this, no matter what the wave, I kind of make a mental note to kill the melee that I am not currently being attacked by, because if nothing else, in some circumstances, it will help the back melee not to dig because it's going to die first. So a change to the order in which he kills things could be useful here. No harm with blood barraging a wave like this if you do want the HP. It's pretty optional at this kind of time barrier. One thing I would say is if you are going to do it, and you know you want that HP, then stand really far back from them and try and get some good phantom barrages. Bit of a misjudgment there on the nibbler, but a good chin to make up some distance. But yeah, in short, phantom barrage the double nibbler wave if you really want the HP. Another note here again for the starting tile. Could start a bit closer to the center in these waves. There's nothing dangerous inherently on the field, it's all range things. And it gives you a bit more maneuverability to work with. The other thing again was, this seems to be more of a prevalent thing, this is like the third time now, but XP drops matter. When you went after the nibblers, he hit a 90 XP into a 40 XP, and that does not equal 150 in my eyes, so... and whenever something is on West Pillar, you have to go for it, you really, really have to just kill it. As we can see here, the time running across to that pillar is like, you know, 3-4 ticks, whereas like North Pillar and South Pillar, you can kind of get to them pretty easily. As you can see here, it's easy enough to be able to work around. He made sure to drag the bat around, which is good. I like to do a little thing where I try and drag myself into the bat for the first hit and out of range after I get a hit each time to reduce the drain. But this is pretty optional at that point. In these early waves, I wouldn't camp super low HP, but I think it's nice to really push the limits a little, maybe towards like 50 HP worth of, well, about 50 HP. So barraging these waves is by no means a bad thing, but certainly it would be more advisable to chin, just to make up time where possible. In this case here, this is another small time save. When you have two options like this, let's say you kill the ranger first and you have to be in blowpipe range for this, and then you want to go for the nibblers, you're probably going to throw a chin, and if you kill the ranger first then throw the chin, you have the travel time of the chin to worry about before it dies. If you're blowpiping and then you throw a chin, the travel time, it's still going to kill it and then you can kill the ranger. It's essentially a 1 to 2 tick time save, purely based on what you choose to do in terms of the order in which you kill. He ended up blowpiping here, which is I think still a 1 tick time loss either way. Or yeah, I mean, if anything, that was the better option. Could have done a slightly better path out here, but we have a good intention killing the blob behind, and now we're going to get a nice pull here where we can get a triple chin. Very nice. On the melee, here it is. Not the biggest fan of being in ranger melee range. It's not too dangerous, but yeah. So he's 63 HP right now. These waves are, they shouldn't be too cluttered and, you know, too dangerous. So yeah, I still think pushing the limits and blowpiping here is perfectly fine. Got a bit of time made up on the bat, which is good. I don't really know what the answer is here. If you're getting like gangbanged by 2 bats, do you go after the bats and then get the blob or not? I think I like to. I personally like to just go for 1 chin and then reassess, but yeah. You could drag the ranger around the pillar here by moving over to this side of the pillar and then chinning that stack. Yeah, I think the bats and blob thing are pretty optional. 67 HP. Yeah, okay, so this will be a big time save. Maybe like as a rule of thumb, if you are 50 HP or more, use chins in the early waves leading up until major. And then on waves where you're below 50 HP, sure, barrage. But that gives you like a set number to work with instead of like a bit of guesswork here and there, so. Decent chin, range prey up, and another decent chin. I still see that nibbler on the west pillar though. But yeah, west pillars and west nibblers are not cool. Did get him, although no ticks lost. Onto ranger melee. I saw him click to move around the back of the north pillar there, and this is kind of the same thing I was saying before. I don't ever really think it's a good idea to play with the melee on the east side of the north pillar, because it's just so annoying. The intention may have been to drag the ranger in, but if you're standing as far away as you can without the melee coming around, you can just chin across to the ranger and it's not bad. And alternatively, you can just path across, blowpipe and melee range flick. It's not really bad to do either of these things. But having a bit of preemptive movement is the main thing here. In this case, this is an awkward one. Okay, he's done it. I was gonna say you need to pre-path here to make sure you don't get dragged around the corner awkwardly into the ranger. In the circumstance that you one-shot the bat, you want to be prepared to attack the ranger. So thinking ahead a bit and always assuming that your weapon will one-shot the NPC you're attacking is a really good idea. So whether, you know, there's times when you have like a blob, 2 bats, and a ranger far away. You one-shot a bat, you one-shot the other bat, you 240 the nibblers, and you're just like, oh, I'm kind of just standing here not doing anything. So it's rare, but it does happen, and it's a big time loss when it does. So this pull here is a good one. I know I said I wasn't a fan of playing on this side of the pillar, but this is free. There's nothing else that can get to him, and dragging in the ranger, sure, it also safe spots the bats. So I'm not against doing this in this wave at all. That was fine. That being said, still not a bad idea to just stay on this side of the pillar. You can get to everything. You can use the bats as chaining NPCs. Yeah, handled perfectly fine. This method of dragging is fine. Blob's not going to get to him. If you're gonna do this sort of like dragging around the pillar mechanic, like this, it's advisable to take one step back and start where my mouse is now. That's really awkward covering, hang on. So if you start where my mouse is right now, and you're attacking, you can drag across blowpipe, 1 tick, 2 tick, and attack on the 2nd tick, thus not losing any ticks. This, on the other hand, loses at least 1. So it's a free tick time save every time you do it. Let's see if he gets the chin clump here. Gets the ranger off. Aha, no. So for this clump here, there's a nice easy way of working this. Whenever you kill the blob, you get 2 hits on the ranger, and all you gotta do to make it clump properly is not to come in, but to come back around the pillar so the ranger can't see you. It will then drag over the bloblets, and you'll be able to chin the ranger on the southwest and hit everything else. So just a little something something to once again help with nice chin clumps. Due to how far away these nibblers are, I would always start with a chin if unsure. Honestly, the west pillar on this one is about to go down, and I'd be quite happy to see it go down, because it's kind of annoying. Melee not cooperating, that's a bit of a tricky one. Bringing him round to the south side of North Pillar would make your life a little bit easier because of the natural safe spot. Okay, another note here, much in the same as Incoxicated's review. If you're going to go and kill a blob first, good, but you have to use the ticks that you generate for yourself, otherwise don't do it. So the comparison here is like, you can either kill the blob first, then the ranger and the nibbler, or you can kill the ranger first, then the blob, then the nibbler, I suppose, if you're going to go for those chaining hits. But by default, going to kill the blob first doesn't do anything useful for you unless you make those ticks that it's dying for count. So this is fine. It's like, if you're going to kill the blob, sure. You could always come around and chain a hit with the bat, but yeah. This is another thing, same as before. If you're going to go and kill something, assume that you are going to one-shot it, because in this case, he did one-shot it. And after he did, it was like, oh, it's dead, and it takes a second to process the death, it takes a second to process where to click and what to do. And I think he lost 2 ticks, maybe 3 ticks, just because he one-shot the bat instead of maybe not one-shotting it, I don't know. It's a bit of a weird concept. You kind of, if you're not ready for something, you might lose more time than if you got unlucky on it and killed it in 1 less hit. I don't know. That one's more about be prepared. This is nice and free. A very nice trap here. So south pillar's getting piled. There's a few ways to deal with this. We'll see what he does. My preferred one would be to chin the ranger, kill the ranger, chain the nibblers, and come back round to the blobs. He has gone for the blobs directly. Sorry, the nibblers directly. Nothing wrong here, but losing some ticks setting up things, and also tanking ranger and blob means you have to get into cycle or face consequences. Utilizing ticks in between, this is good. Tanking a lot of minis though. This is more of a thing about just blob mechanics and making sure you're standing on the corners where the melee won't move around and getting at least one chin hit in. They weren't very nice chins though, they kind of noodled a bit, to be fair. But yeah, I think in that wave it's better to just take out the ranger, make life simpler, and then you can throw a chin at the nibblers to chain it, come back around and be in time for a blowpipe directly. Ranger double melee. That's actually very unfortunate hits there on the nibblers. They're dead now though. My man is sitting at 4 HP. This is of course a pretty easy wave, and the next few waves there will be opportunities to heal with barrage. In the ideal world it'd be nice to not be 4 HP. Could always use the bruise up, but it is also quite early. So in this case, we have double ranger coming. It's a free wave, and when we get to the double nibblers again, be nice to see a phantom going on the 250. There's also options for redempting if you're at 14 HP, or if you're anywhere from 11 to 19 HP. You can always divine and redemption for some free HP. And it's nice because at this point in time his divine is at about 30 seconds, so it's actually, I don't know, this is something I do in my runs a bit more nowadays. So moving back here to generate a phantom would be good. He's actually one-shot them, so in this case you'd be able to get a second barrage off at the cost of a couple of seconds. But when you're this low of an HP, I think it's worth it in these kind of runs. Alright, in T-Bow we trust. Let's see how the RNG is. This is one of those silly things where it's possible in this case to move around the pillar and drag the major onto the nibbler there to chin them. If you're being really funny with chins, you can always do that. Don't think that was the best way of handling this. It would have been nicer to go to the bat safe spot and take out the bat. His intention was to draw the major in, which the intention is fine. But if you're going to come around the pillar badly and take bat hits, then I don't see the purpose, as opposed to just running up the field and killing the bat. So definitely need some. This is a good safe spot. Need to think about some intention behind the clicks. This is not something exclusive to Jimmy's run here. This is like pretty much anyone who has a sub 60 and is trying to improve. This is super relevant advice. Making sure your clicks have purpose and that you are prepared for the next action you want to do, and when something dies is really important. Major and blob here. He corrected the 2-tick. He missed a tick there, but got back on track nicely. So this is good. Always nice to see a good 2-tick. That's probably an HP you should finish with blowpipe, but no biggie. It really is. It's one of those things that might save you a tick every 5 major kills or something like that, so no problems there. In that case here, I saw he delayed a second there. So I don't know if this was a purposeful delay for some reason, but attack and should attack. Now waits a tick, so lost a tick there, I don't know why. And the other thing is, on this kind of XP drop, the 128, you have to re-aggro, or you have to attempt to re-aggro, because this and any XP drop over 80, you might kill the one you're targeting. So in this case, if you don't re-aggro, you don't know that's going to land on that. It could just stop your attack entirely. Nice free wave. We'll see if he safe spots the bat. I'd probably just kill the bat, to be honest, but safe spotting is slightly better. Kill the bat? Yeah. Gotta be prepared for the attack. Lost the tick from killing the bat to going after nibblers because it just died so quickly. Always be prepared. Aha, here he is. There we go, one shot again, a tick lost. So we've lost 2 ticks on 1 bat. Purely because his blowpipe was strong and he wasn't quite ready for the switch. It's actually quite interesting. Both Jimmy's run and Incoxicated runs, Jamal's run, they're quite similar in quite a few ways. Nice 240 there. This is an interesting way to go about things. I think it's better to... One of the ways I play is, if I have the major NPCs set up in a cycle, I try not to break the cycle. There are times when you can do, but it's not really something you want to do, and in this case, the major NPCs in play are the major and the mini blob, the blob. So at the start of the wave, he had a nice visual access line to both of them, which means they're both going to be on tick for a 2-tick, which he set up perfectly. And then he broke the 2-tick to go and deal with the bats. I think he came back around realizing this, but it was like, probably could have just sat on the bat safe spot, or even just killed the bats and stayed in 2-tick and not worried too much. I mean, he's a high HP. He's 89 HP. I sadly can't see the spec, but I mean, I don't think it's a big deal to sort of tank like that. On this kind of wave here, if you know it's going to be a major and a double blob, as long as you're confident with 2-ticking, and I'd say he is, maybe start a bit higher up on the field into the center where you have a higher chance of everything seeing you at once. These days I have sort of a system where if everything doesn't see me at once, I know the way that it will drag, and I can usually just continue a 2-tick and it will see me on the good part of the 2-tick regardless. So I never ever have to worry about things not being on tick for myself, which is really nice. Sorry, off tick for myself. Again, we have major and melee. 72 HP start. Got a nice kill with the barrage. Nothing wrong with this, but also no harm using chins at that HP for a wave that is simple. Major's dying nicely. He doesn't have to go after the range melee at all. There. That's definitely blowpipe range for the major. As we kind of had a look at this, and currently it's about whenever the major hits 50 HP, the blowpipe becomes technically better. It's not likely to save you a tick at that point, and once you get to about 25 HP, you're looking at, you know, you probably should switch at 25 HP. Anything below, as we tend towards 1 HP for the major, the blowpipe becomes better and better and better and better. I don't know the numbers, but I'd assume that if the major is like actually 1 HP and you're T-bowing it, you're doing something wrong. Of course, if it's like really far away and you have a 2-tick set up with a blob and a ranger and stuff, like, sure, I mean, you can chin it, I like to chin it, but it's definitely nothing wrong with T-bowing at that stage. Another forethought here. If you're going after that melee, got to make sure that you are absolutely ready to go after something else. So it's nice to set up a melee flick pattern, but don't forget that if you do end up killing it, time to switch targets. So for example here, if he had killed this bat that's coming towards him, what do you do? Because you have to have something ready to actually attack. You could have pathed directly onto the melee, but there was definitely no sort of like cursor movement towards the melee, so... Pre-planning. Here the melee's going to dig, we'll see what he's going to do. Safe spotting it on this side of the major over here is nice. This is fine. I mean, major died anyway, no problem there. Nice wave. Blob didn't see him, shouldn't attack. Can always come around with range prey, flick to mage, and come back across to the major. Another tick lost here. This is I think I'll keep bringing it up for as long as I see the issue, because it is this is like the biggest time loss so far. It's definitely just not anticipating when something will die, and it's like a tick loss every time. Because there's no harm in this scenario. If let's say you're not sure whether the nibbler died or not, and you go after the nibbler that's here, and then you go after the major immediately, not knowing whether you actually killed the nibbler. What's the worst that happens? Okay, it bites your pillar like 2 more times. You go back around and you repeat the process until it dies. What's like 4 HP to the pillar at this stage in the game? It's wave 45. His pillar's like not even red colored at all. It's pretty damn healthy. So it does matter quite a lot. Nice little movement to stack there. That is a interesting way to off-tick. That is a very good way to off-tick. There we go. My preferred method of off-ticking these is to stand still until the final major attack before the melee will hit. Sorry, the attack before the final major attack. This might sound a bit weird, but the idea is that if you move too early... So how do I put this? The further you are, let's say you're in that isolated position with the major and the melee, the further away the melee is from you, the less sure you can be, the less like degree of accuracy that you have to tell when the melee is going to hit you. The closer it is to you, the better idea you're going to have of like, oh, it's, you know, it's 2 ticks away, it's 1 tick away, it's between this major hit and that major hit. So I don't like to move away too early. I think in that case it was a little bit too early, and that kind of threw him off. So you don't want to leave it to like the very last second, but you should try and reassess from a position that is easier to reassess. You basically make life easy for yourself instead of giving yourself the position where you might just not be too sure. You might just mistake it because it's, you know, an extra 2 tiles away or something. So for me, this process happens if I'm standing on the edge of this pillar here and the melee is coming towards me. I'd say the leading edge of the melee has to be about on this line here, so like 2 to 3 tiles away. And I think in this case it was like back here, so a bit too far. Interesting wave spawn. There's actually not much you can do about that melee. This is a great solution right here. The only other solution that is sort of relevant in this case would have been to safe spot this melee on the south side of North Pillar while attacking it the entire time, and then moving to this side of the pillar to trap it, dragging it up, and then attacking the major. We have 2 relevant options. This one was the simpler and, in my eyes, slightly better / easier to execute option. Good T-bow hit's gonna drag him though. He does get it. Ah, no, what is this? Great intention there, good T-bow hit, but dragging mini blobs around the pillar is very awkward. This is a big time waste. Should have just chucked the chin at... I'll go back here. Should have just chucked the chin. So here, okay, we know this is going to track. We know we don't have the time here. Even on a 240, this guy is always going to be a part. So what do? Make things simple for yourself. We know Blowpipe is strong. 1 chin. Okay, reassess 1 more chin. The first thing you do in this case is you target the mage mini blob, not the ranger because of the range defense, obviously. 1 chin on this guy, blowpipe this fella, drag yourself over and try and get a clump out of this. But you know, let's count the ticks. I think you need 3 ticks, but you need like 5 ticks to deal a good amount, and then maybe a blowpipe to finish these guys off, so maybe like 7 ticks worth of time. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Should be dead by now. 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. Nearly 3 times as many ticks as required, as opposed to just attacking it with a blowpipe. So... moral of the story there is blowpipe is very fucking powerful. Don't be afraid to just blowpipe mini blobs, as opposed to trying to set up some really nice sort of chins or whatever it may be. They're not necessary. I might go on a fair amount about like how chin clumps are relevant, and they are, and they're fun to set up. But ultimately, for moving like into sub 55 territory, it's just about non-stop attacking. Don't lose those ticks. Make sure you plan stuff. Having sort of a game plan for each wave, making sure that you're looking a bit ahead to make sure that the things you're doing make sense. That's what really matters at this stage. Because he's got the base skills to like transition everything across, so you can flick just fine. Even the 2 ticks are there. Here we are again. 1 or 2 ticks lost because wasn't ready for the first one to die. Second one comes in, 1 tick. Okay, we're on about 31 minutes onto range and mage. This is a nice move. This is definitely my preferred move. Come back around, no ticks lost. See, that's what I want to see. I want to see more of this. Had plenty of time there, was prepared for it, came back around, no tick loss. Blowpiping the major like that is completely fine. If it's for 1 hit to like essentially chain attacks, great, do it. Totally fine. This is a good idea, but in order to make blowpipe effective in this scenario, you have to come around and not get dragged like that, because that itself is a time loss each time. So again, another time loss. There's 2 ticks lost by doing that. The blowpiping is good, but you can't afford to lose ticks in the setup of that blowpipe. Especially not from an HP like that. I think that was like 50 to 55 HP on the major there. 2 methods to deal with this. Do 1 blowpipe hit and come round in the mid tick, so you never lose a tick. The second option is to set up a 2 tick or a flick between the major and the ranger early. And if you have it set up early, then switching targets like that isn't a problem, because the ranger is never, well, you're never dragged around the pillar, and the ranger can see you. Third option, which is available here, is to come around the east side of the pillar. So instead of coming around this way, go around the other side of the pillar and move yourself a bit closer, because that drag on that side of the pillar is instantaneous, as opposed to this side. Killing the bat first, good. Commit to the bat, commit to the bat. There we go. The main reason to do that is you don't want to let the bat drag if you just end up killing it slowly, and you definitely don't want to drag it on its death animation. Wait, that's literally the same thing. Well, you don't want to have it drain your stats. Sorry, that's what I meant. This is all fine. Take out the trash. Goodbye, bats. Got to make sure to use these ticks here. So 1, 2, 3, 4 ticks there, not doing anything. Bat dead. Use the tick, use the tick, use the tick. 2 ticks lost. I'm sorry, Jimmy. I know I'm hammering the same point in home. I hope that he definitely gets this after watching this back, but if it's going to save him time in the future, I will say it 1,000 times. That's a cancer spawn. This is a nice way of dealing with it as well. Coming around like this is always good. 7 HP loss setting that up. Does need to redivine though. There it is. Yeah, in that spawn, I think if you're fast enough, not barraging it and instead going after the major for a T-bow hit and letting the blobs, the nibblers actually settle on the pillar is probably a good thing to do. Like losing a tick to save like what, 4, 5 ticks effective, where you're not going to be doing much damage to the nibbler clump. But on the counter side of things, I don't think I've ever been able to do that. I think it's really difficult to both sort of be aware for that and expect it and react to it and hit a relevantly close XP with the correct weapon. I think that's too difficult. So I'd always, it may not be correct, and if you can pull it off, by all means, but I think it's always better to just throw a barrage no matter what. In the worst case scenario, you lose some time, big deal. It's like, it's pretty unavoidable. And in the best case scenario, you only allow two nibblers to get to a pillar, which will keep that pillar alive a bit longer. So, you know, switched to an alternation pattern here because his 2-tick was off. That's perfectly fine. And just getting the blob hit in before he goes around. Yeah, I mean, sure. 46 HP, no reason to take a few blob hits here for no reason. Going for the barrage, not the best. That's gonna hurt. And this is a wave where I would start healing, brew-wise, for sure. He's got 5 brews left, which is a great amount. The next wave is gonna be another awkward wave. Definitely a nice time to heal up a little bit. This is another, well, this is actually a very awkward wave as it turns out. We're going to get in one of those pillar stacks. The way to deal with this is to come out from the middle of the pillar to this bat tile, and the major will attack first. So he's done exactly that, and he'll just be able to alternate this, and that'll get the blob in check as well. So, yep, dealt with it perfectly. I cannot fault this. It's always nice to see when people just understand the stack and are able to get a nice solution like this going. It's the kind of thing you'd be stuck on for an hour on a first cape, like, I gotta find it in the guide, and you gotta go through like 5 different guides to figure out what the hell's happening. Goes after the blob. That's a bit of a misclick, no biggie though. Pretty lucky barrage. Any tick losses? Lost the tick there attacking the ranger. More preemptive action, please. Good. Yeah, tricky wave, dealt with it well. This is a nice free wave. Ah, it's not as free as it may seem. This is a very awkward one. I'll just pause for a second here. Whenever you get NPCs in this position, whether it be another blob or a melee, and you have a stack behind the pillar, you get this problem where if you try to off-tick naturally, this ranger can't move. Its southwest tile is where my cursor is, and if you're standing in the middle of a pillar to do a classical off-tick, that southwest tile is usually in the middle of the pillar. But where it is right now is because of this blob being stuck here, or, you know, the melee stuck here, whichever NPC, this tile can't come across, which means if you want to do a classical off-tick, it seems counterintuitive, but the right thing to do is to come out on the east side into the line of sight of the major, which can move, as opposed to coming out on the west side. Now, I'm a bit of an expert here, but I think he's going to come out on the west, and I think he's going to take a ranger hit, would be my guess. So let's see. Is he going to try and come out to the... He's thinking... So this... Okay, like, see here? Both of these guys attack him at the same time. My powers of prediction have once again come into hand. This is because of this fucking blob. So the ranger will hit here. He realizes, he comes back. Great. Tank tick, ate the brew, good. And again, the solution here, this is just an annoying wave. This comes up a lot in speeds. It's very, very, very cancer. Solution here is, this ranger can't move. Literally come out here into any of these tiles where my mouse is right now, attack the major, deal with the blobs, flicking 2-tick or 1-tick alternation. That's all it is. This is a really interesting wave though. This is super hard to deal with. I've died to this like fucking 20-30 times, no joke. This is one of the biggest waves that I had problems with. And it's very hard to get this blob to come round or this melee to come round, so it takes this sort of presence of mind to understand that that's what's happening. And then once, you know, if, let's say you move back now, this blob comes around, there we go. So now the ranger can start moving. Now you can go for a classical off-tick, which I think he has realized. There we go. Yeah. Cancer wave. Took him one attempt to figure it out. So, good stuff. And a good reaction with the brew as well. If you drag around the pillar like this is another interesting Shin thing. If you drag around the pillar like this, you kill the blob, you drag around the pillar, This is actually beneficial for setting up chin stacks. If you come back around here, the melee gets stuck behind the pillar like this, and if you're standing here, these two will drag towards you, and the melee will remain stuck. Whereas if you come round the pillar too quickly and these guys stay in their position, the melee will drag it across. So it's a bit of a weird one when you get this position. You can either choose to come around the east side of the pillar and deal with chins and then ranger, which is preferable. But if you want to completely mitigate the ranger being a part of the equation and then just pray mage, if you stay on this side of the pillar for a tick and kill the ranger, then come back round, you get this really nice clump where these guys pull up and you can just chin the center NPC. That's not even, I'm not faulting him at all for that. That's just a really interesting thing as to how like the blob mechanics work on the pillar. But you can very heavily abuse that to get some nice clumps. Ooh, any off-tickers? Okay. That's the kind of thing, if you want to go for an off-tick, you gotta do it real fast. So now you have that melee dragging in, and if you want to go for something here, either gotta kill the melee, or go for an off-tick. And he is going for the off-tick, nice. Monka? Hello, okay. I respect it. I don't have the balls to try this myself, so... But that is a real nice triple off-tick. Yeah, he knows as well. I don't think I've ever done one of those myself. They look quite fun. That's a nice way to set the timing, because you always have a nice 1-2 tick from the mage range. So if you've just been hit by the melee, that's always a preset. That's always a preset triple off tick. So, gaming. Good movement. Come back round. Donk. And he moves back for the bat as well. Pretty much perfect. Got to use these ticks up here. Okay. Okay, T-Bow's going a bit Rambo. If T-Bow wasn't going Rambo, you'd have to have a little think about what to do next. In this case, he had the timing and the T-Bow hits just fine. But if that melee digs on you, you have to set up a 2-tick, or you have to set up an off-tick with the mage range on this side of the pillar here. That's fine though. T-Bow kind of popped off. Nice movement, nice melee catch. Bat, please die. Thank you, Bat. And you should be able to come out to the bat safe spot here. Gaming. It's kind of odd, really. I feel like a lot of players in these sort of like late 50s and early 60 waves, their efficiency, their like overall wave efficiency often just skyrockets. It's a really interesting sort of thing. It feels like because of the way NPCs drag to the pillar, it's just like there are just easier sort of solutions. Some of them just make more sense. But if you have like a melee, a blob, and 2 bats, it's not always so clear as to like what the right course of action is. So in that sense, the major is a bit of like a polarization. It has this polarization effect in terms of decision making. It's like, I gotta go for the major. Oh, things are stuck. I can stand here. It's actually really nice. A lot of players play off that quite well. Good movement here. Took a melee hit, but it's not lethal. So who am I to judge? Nibblers, please die. And he has 2 options here. You can either go back and tank the melee and the major, or you can do this, which is the other option. And when the melee digs, he can come back. Lovely. Yeah, nicely done. Not nicely done. That is a chance, although a very unlikely to kill him one. Good intention, slight issue at the end. once again, we're coming down to the end of a Bastion timer, 10 seconds remaining, which means you're gonna have to do it at some point before the next wave anyway, or like during the next wave. You can do it now. Actually, he got a fucking massive spec, so this problem is negated entirely. But in that position, I'm just like, my mind is just like, brew. You're coming up to a difficult wave. You have low HP. Brew. Killing Ranger here to simplify things. Oh no, he's not. Okay. Yeah, killing Ranger there was not the best of moves, but now we have this other problem here, so choices are to sort of either kill the Ranger or the melee, or even both. Bit of an awkward wave. That blob is just sitting over there on the west side, like minding his own business, just being annoying as well, so... But, yeah, coming around to the west side and dealing with the Major and the blob would have been the better bet. Just nuking the bat out of existence to begin with, kind of thing. But he's used the bruise now, which is all well and good. And getting a couple of heals here can't hurt. Back up to 84 HP. Feels good. Should be able to off-tick this. Or drag the Major in, sorry. Bat dead. Click Major. Yep. Yeah, and bow kind of doing work. Love to see it. This is like the same point as very early on. Not personally a big fan of coming out onto the east side of the pillar like this. Again, if it was just the melee, like it was in one of those earlier waves, fine. If it's just the melee, whatever. But if you have like Ranger and Blob there, it forces you to have to also move back and onto the side of the pillar. And I've seen 1,000 players get dragged into that melee as they try to come back around and just cop like everything from that side of the pillar, including the melee. So a simplification to this would just be to kill stuff on the west side again. Use the natural safe spot for the melee. That's a sort of an interesting wave here. This melee probably just has to die. Oh, that's an amazing safe spot for the Major. I didn't see that coming at all. That's amazing. Yeah, that's quite cool. That Major can't do anything either because as long as he stays on the side of the pillar, that blob has line of sight. So, yeah, I don't even know what to think. I think. Well, actually, I think. What the hell? Okay. There's no way. That's actually a good move. He got the timing for that. I put out a vid like 2 days ago about how to deal with that situation specifically, where you have a Major, a blob, and you need to reset the aggro on the melee. So I'm not even going to cover that here if you want to go look at that. It's like a 20-second video. It literally just shows like the core mechanics of the timing at which you need to do that. But that's a video that applies very relevantly to that situation there. Not that he played it badly, he played it quite well. But that's an extremely scary moment there. Okay, we are on to past the hard stuff, on to mage range double melee. And okay, that was a nice idea. Instead of like risking the mage flick, he just took a melee hit on high HP. And now he has this good range mage off tick. Yep. Solid. That Nibbler's in a position where that pillar's like high enough HP that you probably want to leave the Nibbler alone until the end of the phase. So I wouldn't kill this here personally. I'd just leave it. I'd leave it and let the pillar HP go down. Because there's one more wave before mage, and even if all 3 nibblers got on that pillar, I do not think it would be possible for that pillar to go down by the time the wave was finished. So mage double range. Any double range stacks? Nope. We all good. Let's see what off-tick he goes for. Yeah, go on, click. He had his cursor hovered over here, and off-ticking range into mage would have been great. So I still don't think this is relevant. There's like 2 nibblers on the pillar. There's no way the major could have not died before the nibblers killed that pillar. And to point out, even if the nibblers like started hitting just big numbers consistently, if you had an off-tick set up over here on the east side with the ranger and the major, so like range here, mage here, and you standing here, in the worst case scenario, and you know your pillar's like, oh crap, it's going down, you have 2 options again. You can come over to this tile here, which you can hit the nibblers from, and bring this guy into the 2-tick cycle, or you can just come back around to the nibbler safe spot if you really had to deal with it. But setting up an off-tick there would have been fine. Still leaves you options to deal with nibblers. And we are on to double major. For this wave, I like to start really up and close personal in the center. If there's only mage prey to pray against, there's not really a big deal with... There's not really a problem with just being out in the open. So be brave. Unfortunate nibbler spawn didn't allow for any pillar shenanigans on the major anyways, so just killing them like this is the right option. And of course leaving that nibbler alive till last. Also nice in case it takes the pillar down, but more importantly so you can blowpipe and then phantom barrage it for some free HP, since it's a bit more awkward to phantom majors. Nice. No phantom there, no problem though. His HP is 88, so perfectly fine. Got something like 3-ish brews left. And we are a little bit over 50 minutes into single dread. Not bad. He's also used one of those bastions during the waves, so that's some good potting right there. Oh, look at that spawn. Yeah, great. That's a great chin on Jad there. Good knowledge to chin the Jad rather than the separate clumps. And we'll see what he decides to do for the... I mean, leaving them like this is fine. This is probably the better option, if anything. But he's high HP, he doesn't need to set them up for a big heal or anything. Very nice. Could always go for like the 0 gear just barrage on those guys for free HP. It doesn't hurt to try, sometimes you get lucky. Another good chin on Jad. That kind of chin on Jad is something that on this particular Jad, I never do that, and I really should do it more. So I will... Ooh, that's a bit of a tank. Yeah, I'll take a note from that. Yeah, that tank's going to complicate things brew-wise. Unfortunate. I feel like we always get to like Jad and triples in this, and I either learn something myself or figure out something that I'm not doing very well, or I just sit here like, yeah, this is good gameplay. I think one thing that I want to do in terms of improving my Jads is figuring out the exact range at which T-bow shots become a tick more in duration before reaching their target. Exact hinted the other day that there's absolutely no reason to be standing far back against the wall when you go for this Jad that he's attacking here, and I think that might well be true. So like if you're standing right next to it, it's like 1 tick away, and if you're standing like 2 or 3 tiles away, it's 2 ticks, but the range from 2 ticks to 3 ticks is like really far. So like attacking from here, that looks like 2 ticks to me, like 1, 2, as opposed to, yeah, I don't know. It's like he's proving my point as it's going on, but I don't think going to 3 ticks, I don't know, I have to test, is my point. I'm not sure about it. But yeah, good jets. Well, 1 tank tip, but that could have been just about anything from lag to a misclick, so. Come on, Jad, just die. So this run ends up being like a 37-30, I think, something like that. Might be 36-30, might be 37-30. This Jad is milking though. There we go. Got the tactical Falador shield, 1 charge used, 1 charge remaining. This is the point where I like to move my supplies up. Well, I kind of juggle my supplies a lot during my run, but I like to move them up towards the top left of my inventory. And this gives you a slight reduced distance to click on. Right, so if this is a 37-30, then it's a pretty damn average Zuck for a Mage, Jad, and Healer skip, which comes out to be about 320, 330. So we shall judge the Zuck. Fairly average hits so far. I'm inclined to believe this might be one where his bow pops off mid to post healers. Yeah, not bad hits, not bad hits. His HP is currently 31, which is a bit scary, so I'm hoping for some big blowpipes. 245, 176, yep. Is that Jarvan I hear? Damn, good hits. Mayhaps a tick or 2 lost on the major tag, but no biggie. Yeah, okay, Bow is Ramboing now. Some nice big hits. Can we get some more? Oh, he's gonna kill Major. Okay, fair play. His brews aren't like doing too nicely, so I think killing Major is by no means a bad shout. Mage Jad healer skips I feel aren't really that relevant until you're pacing well into the sub 55 category, because at that point, if you really want to gain time, then that 20 seconds from this major is it starts to become relevant. So yeah. I've also just realized and or noticed he's only just used a dose of stam there, and he has used 2 doses in the waves and 1 dose at Zuck. So I don't think there was ever a point where he needed to use the stam doses, but there's definitely no reason why you wouldn't just chug a dose here and there to make life easy for yourself. Alright, hey Jet, how you doing? And I do think he'll skip healers for this. Never lucky on the T-bow proc. You can definitely get 1 more shot in there if you're feeling lucky and you're careful as to the tile you stand on for the first Zuck hit in rage form. But 1 more shot here and this should be healers. I say 1 more shot here. There it is. Yep, good. Perfect range. If he was 1 more across, he would have been dragged, so that was very nice. Get the last healer. There it is. And we're onto the healer skip. Just a couple of mystics, nothing too crazy here. Nice little corner dodge. Yeah, I mean, this is all standard stuff. Maybe a little bit more attention to the brew into restore rather than the brew into Bastion, but hey, I mean, nice stuff. Definitely a slightly faster Zuck than expected for killing the major, but it's only like 20 seconds difference, so all in all, good stuff. The key takeaways here Be preemptive in clicks, have a plan for when you one-shot NPCs, so like always think one NPC ahead, especially if it's like nibblers and bats. Whenever you're sort of moving around, make sure to sort of check the pathing, I guess. Actually no, that's more of like one of those wave specific things. The biggest thing by far that last time was not preemptively thinking ahead and one-shotting something and then just not clicking on something else. Sometimes the simple solution is the better solution, so like staying on the side of West Pillar. There was that one wave with the double blobs where it was like, it would have just been better to just shin it then blowpipe it rather than, and you know, it would be like 7 ticks on average as opposed to like the 20 it took, I guess. Keep things simple. Think ahead a bit. Maybe use a bit more brew in the early waves for relevant waves. There's nothing crazy off here. You know, for the most part, the waves were pretty clean. Some of the 2-ticking was a little bit off, and perhaps, you know, some slightly more aggression in the very early waves. Sort of starting more centrally would be good. This is one of those things about sort of thinking as you're playing instead of just reacting to things. And it takes a while it takes a long time to sort of get into that mindset. You have to really actively work at it. And this was another small thing. Like, make sure to, if you're going to go for blood barrages here, try and go for a phantom, stand really far back. Anyway, I'm not going to try and recap too much. That's the vid. Hope you guys enjoyed. Thanks to Jimmy for letting me use the footage, and all the best on the sub 55 runs. Alright guys, see you later. Bye bye.